I feel that the overall strength is something that grip athletes are severely missing. Generally, the top grip sport competitors are actually very, very strong. And they do some kind of combination of just basic strength training. One day, your hand can just slip right into the right position and angle, and all of a sudden, you damn near double how much you lifted because you figured out one of these technique points. It's actually really important, and people overlook them.
Time to sit down, keep it real, and cut the bullshit. Welcome to Table Talk. All right, guys, we're back with another episode of Table Talk. My guest today is Jedd Napalm Johnson. Jedd has been a grip sport champion multiple times since 2003, strength coach, Diesel Crew co-founder and founder of Jedd's Gym in, how do you say the city?
Wyalusing, Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania. And man, we go back a long ways. We don't want to say how long it is, but it's been a long ways.
Yes.
So it's cool to sit down and speak to you. I want to go over, the origins, of how you got into grip. And I want to get into grip training, but I also want to get into grip training as it applies to sport. Because while grip sport seems like what you're really known for, you also work with I don't want to curse too soon because of the algorithm. Yeah. You work with a lot of athletes as well from the strength and conditioning sphere. And I want to get into that a little bit because I think when a lot of people are speaking to you, they just zone in on that one aspect. But there's a whole lot of other things that you do with these kids that you work with. And it is an important aspect. So we will definitely get into that. So if I understand correctly, you started training around 8 or 9.
As a kid, I would do push-ups and stuff like that, mainly when I was watching wrestling. Yeah. So Hulk Hogan or Ultimate Warrior would come on, and I would start doing push-ups. And I distinctly remember having my sister put a laundry basket on my back and putting like pillows and books into the laundry basket to make the push-ups harder because I was knocking out like 50. So I guess the idea of getting stronger was always part of my life, not just bigger, but being stronger and trying to find out ways to get stronger.
Now, at that age, were you a multi-sport athlete?
I mean, at that point, when I was 8, I think all I did was baseball. But as soon as I got into middle school, I started playing basketball also because in 6th grade, I was already 6 feet tall. So before that, I had no idea. I might have thrown a basketball at a rim at some point, but some people were trying to like tell my dad, like, you got to get this kid into basketball because when I was 12, I was already 6 feet tall. So they didn't know how tall I would end up getting. As it turns out, I only grew a couple more inches, but my dad's father was like 6'6" or 6'7". So they were thinking that maybe, I would continue to blossom and maybe become like a power forward in college or something like that. It didn't turn out that way. And I didn't really enjoy basketball. Baseball was my primary sport, but.
Now you played baseball on to college.
Yeah, I played 2 years of college at Mansfield. I was at the bottom of the depth chart on the pitching squad. So basically I would come in for relief. And if let's say we had gone through a bunch of pitchers during the week and they needed someone to jump in there, then that would be me. But by no means was a really impressive college baseball career or anything. One thing that happened was my freshman year in the fall, I used to throw a lot of split finger fastballs, which had tremendous movement on them. So that was good, but I didn't always have the best control. So one time it got past the catcher and we were having this inter squad game and I had to run in real quick to cover home. And when I did, my foot snagged on something on the mound and I pulled my right groin. And to this day, it still like goes out on me if I try to run. But as a result, I ended up destroying my throwing arm because my mechanics had to completely change. I couldn't force myself off the mound anymore. It wrecked my arm to the point that I couldn't set my elbow on a desk in school. So after 2 years, I gave up on it, and I was going to become a pro wrestler. So that's what I really wanted to do. So I started training as much as I could, and the interest in strength training and bodybuilding came about around that time, and I've pretty much trained seriously ever since.
Were you doing strength and conditioning for baseball while you're in high school?
Yeah, I went to a clinic in New Jersey. It was like a showcase, you might say. And one of the presenters was some kind of a strength coach, and he handed out a paper of stuff to do. So I was like, oh, this is probably going to make me a Major League Baseball player. I better do it. Mm-hmm. So I followed it to the T, and I trained at just a local chiropractor's like rehab facility. And one thing I remember about that place is all the dumbbells ended in 2 and 7. It wasn't like 80 and 85. It was 82 or maybe even 88. I can't remember. It was some weird offset. Yeah. So I don't know if they were actually kilo dumbbells and then they converted them into the number or what.
They were actually on the plate?
Yeah, it was like a sticker. It was like a decal, so the dumbbell looked like...
So it was a real decal. It wasn't like they weighed it and then put their own decal on it?
I think they may have actually done that because it looked like they printed it out and then it was like off center. So it wasn't right here. It was like off center. And I remember we invented something that we called Guam Nam Saddam because the dumbbells weren't heavy enough. They only went to 88s. So we would do this pre-exhaustion with a series of dumbbells to make the 88s feel harder. Mm-hmm. So that's the name we came up with. So
at that point, where was your passion for the training compared to baseball?
I think I still had passion for baseball after my first year of college. And then after the second year, it was basically completely gone. So I knew there was no way I was ever going to be in any kind of a starting rotation on that baseball team because my arm was literally destroyed. So before I went home for the summer, I told the coach that I wanted the opportunity to try out for first base again because originally I went to be a first baseman and a pitcher because I think coming out of my town, I'm the stud. I'm going to go in there. Mm-hmm. I was clueless, but that was kind of what he told me. I was going to play first and pitch. Well, when I got there, the first day of fall practice, my freshman year, there were at least there were 3 other first basemen ahead of me, and they were all like juniors and seniors. So I'm like, wow, this guy recruited me for first base to play over these upperclassmen. No, that's not the case. After like 1 week, I was in the bullpen full time in the doing the pitcher workouts.
Yeah,
like I never picked up a bat again.
So what did the pivot look like when you want to be a professional wrestler?
Yeah,
and different time. It's like nobody knows what to do. Mm-mm. You know what I'm saying? There's no wrestling schools and shit like that.
Well, the thing is, there was a wrestling school, and I didn't find out about it until 2015. So we're talking about 1999. Mm-hmm. I had no idea there was a wrestling school in Scranton, Pennsylvania, an hour and 15 minutes away from my place, or else my whole entire life would be different because I definitely would have gone there. Mm-hmm. But basically, I just started training 5 days a week in the morning before class. There were a couple dudes down there that I would train with, and they were pretty routine until about Friday, and then most of them wouldn't show up. But it was a combination of powerlifting and bodybuilding, and nothing really explosive, but like basic bench, squat, and deadlift, and then seated press.
So how'd you go about acquiring the knowledge on how to train at that time?
That's when I met Smitty, Jim Smith. And so when I came after my freshman year in college, I started training with him in this garage rehab facility. And then I wasn't really super consistent, but I could tell that he was really passionate about it. So then I went back to school for my second year. And when I came back, I kind of knew I was done. And I looked him straight in the eye. I was like, I will never miss a day. You tell me what to do, I will do it. And I did. We started training 5 days a week. And it was all the way until the end of the summer. Like, we didn't miss any days. Sometimes we would train on weekends as well. And then there was one time I remember he came in. So I would get out of work in the summer at like 3. He would get out at 4. So I would just go and camp out at the gym. Well, one time the door was open. I went downstairs into this basement gym, and I just passed out. I was so overtrained, wiped out. Like, it was ridiculous. And that was the first day that I missed, or that we took off, but I was just completely brutalized. My body couldn't take it anymore. But it was, close to 3 months straight of training.
At what point did you guys decide and start doing a deep dive into training methodology? It
was all on him. I remember him. He went somewhere. It may have been the Juniata clinic in like 2000. So the first one that I went to was in 2001, and that was the second that they ever did. And I believe you were there and Louis was there. I'm not sure about Jimmy Wendler, but I remember you speaking there and Louis. But he came back from someplace. I don't know where it was. And he didn't have bands, but he bought all this surgical tubing. So we were wrapping the surgical tubing around everything and like making side laterals harder, stuff like that. So that's when it was like 2000, 99, 2000, something like that, where it was like, it was all he talked about, and it was really infectious. So I suck at reading, so I've never been one to research anything. Like, these days I'll consume videos and stuff like that, but the reading is a problem for me. But I think I had the ability, like, whatever he told me I could pretty much remember. And then after a while we would kind of feed off one another's ideas, and we came up with some pretty cool stuff and eventually turned that into a website.
When did the website start?
As I recall, 2003. Yeah. 2003. It may have been a little bit before that, but I remember it was kind of a static website for a while, and it had like some kind of a music video with like a Seven Dust song playing on it. And if you had high-speed modem, you'd be able to hear that song. If you had dial-up, you'd have to sit there for hours and wait for it to download. But that's kind of how the internet was back then. But it was around 2003.
So how did you guys decide what topics to provide content about?
Well, that's a good question.
Was it based upon what you were doing at the time? Because you went through like this bodybuilding phase and powerlifting phase and Olympic lifting phase and strongman phase, kind of in that order. Powerlifting.
Yeah, that's exactly the order.
Strongman. So was it based upon that? Because you were going through this powerlifting phase, you're going to consume and I don't want to say regurgitate, consume, repackage in your voice with what was working for you guys and the people that you were helping. Yeah. That content.
And a lot of it was just like sharing PRs. One of the big videos that was really popular that I put out back in the day was when I first pressed 300 pounds, because I didn't think I'd ever get it. It just seemed like a number I wouldn't reach. And I think I had a conversation with a guy like the week before and saying, I don't know if I'll ever get 300. And then the next week I was able to press 300 pounds overhead, and I'm screaming in the gym, and people would like pull our videos down off the server download link, and it would continually like overrun our bandwidth, so we'd have to keep investing more in the website. That was like every other week we'd have to increase. That's
an interesting time, because we're kind of like pre-YouTube here. So
totally,
you couldn't put shit like that on your website because the bandwidth would be out of hand. And then it was like, how the fuck are we going to pay for the bandwidth? And then YouTube came around, or I think maybe Vimeo or something like that was before that. And for a lot of us at the time, it wasn't really so much about building the YouTube following. It was, thank God, we can just go there and put the embed and not have to worry about this bandwidth shit.
I didn't get a high-speed modem until like 2010. Like, I lived in the middle of nowhere, and so we would have to basically trim the video as short as possible and then downgrade it, like pixelate it on purpose, because it would take me hours to upload a video. Like, I would do it in the morning before I went to work, and maybe it would be done by the time I got home. So, but like I still have some of those videos, and like you can't, it's just so bad quality because of the internet, you know, the upload download stuff.
There was one of the earlier ones that I remember, but I'm old too, so my memory's good and bad as well. That I believe there was one, and I think it was there were two of them that caught my attention from the very beginning. One was some pull-up type of shit where it was like jumping from one bar to the other bar, or whatever it was. Then the other one, if I remember correctly, was in a gym fucking swinging a barbell around. And I saw that, and I'm cracking the hell up, right? Because all I'm thinking is, I don't know if it's a parody. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's training torso, but all I could think is everybody that's in that gym at that time, probably was nobody, is probably looking at this like, what the hell are you guys doing?
Well, yes, it was that. But at the same time, we were always having such a good time that people wanted to try stuff out. So I definitely remember like swinging a barbell like a club, like the off center stuff where you're grabbing on one loading sleeve and then your other hand's inside that sleeve, and then the rest of the barbell is out there doing stuff like that. Stuff on chairs. I called something bow to the east. I was like kneeling in a chair and like pulling it up. It like wrecked my back. I was enormous. I was probably like one of my biggest sizes at the time on that video when the pull-up one that you're talking about. Was that the one where it was kind of on a cable crossover complex and it had a bunch of pull-up bars on it and we were like going around in a circle following one another? Yeah.
Like a ape.
Yes. And
you were big too, man.
No, I was probably like 280 pounds.
Yeah. That was the impressive part is, you know, most guys that size probably can't do one or two pull-ups. And you're like,
I could jump too.
You're fucking ape just jumping around.
When I was that heavy, I could still dunk. In 05, I was still able to dunk. And I was probably at least 265 at that time. Yeah. So I was able to retain a lot of my athleticism except for the running. Like if I ever played pickup softball, it was great until like the second inning, and then I'm on the bench because I literally couldn't run to first without pulling a groin. It was that whatever happened to my leg in college just never healed.
With what created the migration from the powerlifting into the Olympic weightlifting?
So
normally you don't see that. You'll see the other way.
I'm trying to think. I think the way it worked out was I was getting an interest in the strength and conditioning field, and I asked for like explosive lifting for sports from, is that an NSCA?
Yeah.
But it was an Olympic lifting, and that video came with VHS, and I used to watch it like once a week, and I was just really interested in doing that. I thought it was cool. Plus it was on TV. You know, every 4 years. So I thought it would be cool to eventually maybe be on TV one day. Like I get these delusions that I'm going to be the best in the world 5 minutes into doing something, but it was a lot of fun. And, I had like the shoulder mobility at the time to do snatches, and I would do all those breakdown exercises. I really enjoyed it. How we went from the powerlifting to Olympic lifting, the only thing I can think of is it was that videotape.
Yeah, I can see that, because if you're going through the education certification type of route and you start moving into the NSCA, it was real big in the Olympic lifts at the time, which is going to lead to, you know, a couple things. You know, what you said would be one, but the other one would be, well, if I'm ever going to be a strength coach somewhere, I'm going to have to know how to teach these lifts, and the only way you really know how to teach anything is if you can do it.
Got to do it. Yeah. And I was never at a certification or anything. I went to the hands-on training at Juniata. I'm pretty sure Smitty went to the Leo Totten seminar at some point. And maybe that was what it was. He came back and, we got to try this stuff out. So
so that brings us into the strongman. So what?
I definitely know how that happened. That was the Dr. Squat forum, and Murph from TPS was on there, and he was a consistent poster and put up a lot of cool videos and like articles and things like that. And he started advertising about the 2003 like Massachusetts Strongest Man. So next thing I know, we're going to start training for a strongman contest. No equipment, nothing, but we started kind of crafting things out of stuff that was at the gym. So we called this one handle the Longhorn handle. It looked like bull horns, but it was a seated row handle. And we would hook that under an easy curl bar, like where the V's are of the easy curl bar. So the handles would kind of go in there, and then we use that to train for farmers holds. The event was a farmer's hold. It wasn't.
I get what you're saying. Yeah.
And then we used a hex bar for the log press. So we would just spot each other to get it like over your head, and then we would just press it that way. And we went to like a scrap yard and got kegs to fill up with water and sand and stuff to train for a strongman contest, or for the, the Atlas stones. And, we just went from there, and that's kind of where I started collecting equipment. So we would go to the scrapyard all the time and look for stuff that kind of just looked like tools, because at the time there definitely weren't a lot of places to buy grip equipment. And frankly, I was too cheap to like actually buy anything. So it was cooler for me to try to figure out how to make something on my own. So that got us ready for the competition. That was August of 2003. It was hot as hell that day. I remember it was just ridiculous. And the way that it worked, I think there were 5 events, and you had to finish maybe in the top 3 to do the last 2. Because we were all in the novice division. So I think I was the only one that like was able to graduate into the last 2 events, but I don't even remember what the events were. But I, some of those people that I became friends with that day, I'm still like really good friends with, especially Murph. Like I love that guy. So he's fantastic. But yeah, that's how it started with Strongman.
And what was the progression like for you there?
I loved it. I absolutely loved it. Like that became my major interest. So I think I competed at least once every year for 4 years. And I'm pretty sure I went up to TPS and won twice in the whatever the heavyweight, maybe not like super heavyweight, but whatever the weight classes were. I have a really good story about the weight classes too. They changed the weight classes the one year. I don't remember what years they were, but we got up there and I was like 258.
Yeah.
Or 268 or something. I'm like a few pounds over, and I never wrestled or anything. I don't know anything about cutting weight or anything, but I had to lose like 10 pounds. So me and this one dude go over to the store and buy all of this stuff that makes you take a crap.
Yeah.
It was red. It was just this red liquid. So I go and pay for it. I get out to the parking lot. I down half this bottle.
Now, how soon before the event is this?
This is the day before.
Okay.
This is the day before. So I'm like, I got to do what I got to do. I'll clear out my colon. So I'd no sooner, and we just had got cell phones. Like this is really early on. We were the first people in the area to have cell phones, I think. So they call me and they're like, hey, you didn't take that, did you? I'm like, yeah, I just drank half of it. He's like, oh, they changed the weight classes. You're under.
Yeah.
So like, I think like the cutoff used to be, had used to been 255 and it moved to 265. And I might've been like 264 or something, but like, I don't remember all the numbers, but I remember I drank half that bottle of whatever it was. And they're like, what are you going to do? I'm like, I'll will it away. And nothing ever happened.
Oh, really?
A half bottle of this stuff that's supposed to make you shit, and I never even went.
Are you a gym owner struggling to build a staff that sells, leads, and sticks around? Then you can't miss this. September 18th and 19th, my friends at the Varsity House are hosting the Business of Strength Retreat at the beautiful Canopy Hotel in Scottsdale, Arizona. The theme this year is Interns to All-Stars, your complete employee development playbook designed for gym owners. You will get the same systems used at Varsity House to turn brand new interns into 6-figure coaches, managers, and even partners. A 10-week intern training program, team alignment and cultural leadership strategies, sales systems that make every coach a closer, a plan to retain and reward your best people for the long haul, their proprietary on-the-job training program, workshops with other world-class gym owners, and a chance to win a $5,000 private consulting package. Plus, you'll hear from elite speakers like Mark Innes, Joe Riggio, Dan Goodman, Devin Gage, and a stacked panel of top gym owners doing this at scale. They will also have a rooftop cocktail party, which will take an already great networking experience and make it even better. They only have 50 seats available. Visit bosretreat.com to register now. Use the code ELITE250 to save $250 as a VIP listener to the Table Talk podcast.
So, yeah, power of the mind, I guess. But yeah, so the strongman career was good. And I used to go as much as I could, but like the guys didn't train with me as much anymore. So it got tougher and I kind of got out of shape and out of conditioning and got some injuries. So like my last competition was in 2006, but 2005 was like my best year. I had accumulated a lot of experience, a decent amount of equipment so I could train specifically for the events, and we had a good crew. And I went out to Saxonburg, Pennsylvania it was like August or September of 2005. And all of the competitors I was up against, I had just competed against in May of 2005, and they all beat me. But like after, 3-4 months, I went out and I kicked all their asses. The only person that didn't beat me. So I came in second in this field of like 12 people. And the only person that beat me was Don Pope, who was a professional strongman that lived in the area. So I was pretty happy with that. But I think a big thing was I had a sedentary job. I worked in an office at a beef plant, and I just got so tight. My hip flexors, my hamstrings, everything was so tight, and my back it could not keep up. And I didn't know what I know now about like mobility and injury prevention. It was just kind of like going to the gym, get a little warm up, and then work as hard as you can to try to break your old PRs. And like there were times I was just walking around like Quasimodo at the office, like barely could move because my back was just destroyed. And what got me was a chain yoke training. I guess it might have been 2006. There was it was basically a barbell with chains hanging off it. At the bottom of the chains were loading pins. So it was incredibly unstable. Yoke is hard enough, but the chain yoke was even crazier. And training for that, I threw something out in my back or pinched a disc or something, and I never really was the same after that. So that kind of came to the end of the strongman career.
How do you go about training for that? Because it's going to be outside, right? So
yeah.
You got squat stands, I assume.
No.
So
no, we just took a barbell, we got chains, and we had like buckets with stones in them, I think. Or maybe we had loading pins with weights on them. But there was an alley out by Smitty's house.
Yeah.
So we would just go the other end of the alley and walk this way.
Oh, I get it. Because the buckets are only going to be so far off the ground. So the bar is not loaded. It's easy to.
Yeah, there's no, I don't recall there being any weight on the barbell.
Yeah. The swing had to be insane, though.
It was ridiculous. Yeah. And I wasn't able to brace.
And it won't
be know anything about that.
It won't be the same on each side either. Where a yoke kind of, has some consistency.
Yes.
Where this one can be going this way, this one can be going this way.
Yeah. We had obtained a yoke. Like the yoke became no problem. It was the extreme dynamic nature of that chain yoke. It was just, I don't know how many people got hurt on that, but I hadn't seen that in many strongman contests. So
bracing for that would be a bitch no matter what, because over time your breathing's going to become higher, right? It's hard to sprint.
Yeah. No, there's no sprinting.
You get what I'm saying? But
yeah,
just in general, it's hard for somebody to sprint and maintain a brace if they're breathing super hard, let alone with weight.
Plus it was like a driveway. So like we're walking on stones, gravel, and like don't get off center because you got like a 4.5 region to stride on. Yeah. It was bad.
Now with
situation
with the grip, was that part of any of these early strongman events? Or I'm trying to figure out how that came into all this.
Yeah, it was it worked out really nice. A guy named Rick Walker was running a grip contest in Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania, and he announced it around the same time that Murph announced his Strongman. And I was extremely interested in doing that Strongman stuff, but because the grip thing was a month later, I was like, I'm going to sign up for both of these because the grip is going to be really important, because we had to do that farmer's hold anyway. So I wasn't really getting into my first grip competition thinking I would be doing this for another 20 years. Really, I just wanted it to support my strongman training. And as it turned out, the strongman was in August, and then the grip was in September.
Did you know at the time how the grip events were organized? Because
I had an idea.
Explain to everybody. There's 4 different categories.
So in grip, you have crushing, which is normally grippers, closing a gripper. You have pinching, which is where your thumb and finger are on opposite sides. It might be a 1-hand pinch or a 2-hand pinch, but you're basically doing something like this. Supporting is generally a round bar or a round handle, and your fingers are under it. Your thumb acts as a brake. And usually it's thick bar, and you usually can't wrap your hand the whole way around it. So those are the 3 main things. But then back in those days, you would have like a hold for time, like a farmer's hold, which was also in the grip contest. And we bent steel. So we would do like, it was essentially nail bending, but you didn't use nails. You used pieces of hot rolled and cold rolled steel of various lengths and diameters. So
now, where would the plate hold fall? Would that fall in the pinch, or would that fall into the hold?
Like a plate hold would be a pinch event.
Yeah.
And then a lot of times in a grip contest, there will be a medley at the end, which could be 10 items. It could be 50 items. You might have a minute to do it. You might have 5 minutes to do it, but there's generally a time limit, and you're trying to complete as many of those challenges as possible within that time limit. So if you can get them all done, it's whoever got them all done in the shortest amount of time wins. But generally, when you're creating a medley, you try to make it so that nobody's going to finish it.
Yeah.
So that's always fun.
And so for the first one, you had, just through the strongman, one of the bases covered, which is the thick bar. Yeah. So did you go about training the others, or just go in and say, fuck it, let's just see what it's going to be?
No, hell no. No, I trained all the stuff. The grippers I was already doing, because when like my interest in grip feats started when I found out that people actually tore decks of cards, which I thought was like a magic trick. Like there was a doctoring of the cards, but I found out that people actually really did tear cards. So I wanted to be able to do that and maybe do it at parties or the bar or something like that. And then I also found out about the Captains of Crush certification. So I wanted to accomplish that as well. So I was kind of already doing those. I kind of figured out about those in like 2002. So about a year before the first contest. But by the time the grip contest was announced, it was the pinch event was just 2 45s sandwiched together with a pipe in there. So we just did that event. We literally just trained that event. The thick bar event was just a thick bar dumbbell that you put plates on, and you had to pick these things up 6 inches. That's so really basic stuff, nothing complex. And I made my first thick bar handle out of a PVC pipe and duct tape. I made it while I was watching wrestling on a couple Monday nights. So no, we were able to train very specifically for these events, no doubt.
The first fat bar, thick bar I ever made, it's still kind of in here somewhere, is the PVC would have been more fucking obvious than I think about it. I just took knee wraps and put it around where my grip would be on the bar. Yeah. And then duct tape over that. And then there it is.
Yeah. See, that wouldn't work for me, brher.
Yeah.
it would be too spongy, and I'd be in my head all the time. But yeah, I mean, it's like necessity is whatever that phrase is. So you figured out a way to get it done.
So how did you do in the first grip contest then?
Not great. I think I came in 7th. I just wasn't strong at that time.
How humbling was that? Because a lot of times you're getting beat by people that probably aren't 270 pounds.
I don't know if humbling's the right word. It really pissed me off. And like the guy that won was Steve McGranahan. He became world's strongest redneck. You might have seen him on TV or YouTube or something. So he was strong. He was legit. And then there were a couple other dudes that beat me, but I think they just had more experience than me with grip. And I hadn't done a lot of strength competitions at that time. Not that they had either, but their experience level with the training just kind of edged me out. And so I think I came in like 7th out of 12 people or 6th or something. It was definitely middle of the pack, but those guys never beat me again. Never.
Did you know at that time that's what you wanted to do?
For
at least the next 5 years?
Yeah, I knew I was hooked. So that contest was in September of 2003, and I bought airline tickets to go out to Minnesota and compete in January of 2004. Like if there was a contest, I was gonna try to get to it. And the crowd of people that were at the 2004 contest in Minnesota was crazy. It was like Dave Osland, who became a professional strongman, Jeff Bissonette, God rest his soul. He was one of the first people to ever carry 2-inch dumbbells at the same time. Joel Sword was out there. He was one of the first people to do that feat as well. Jeff Peterson was one of the kind of like a co-promoter or major supporter. But he was Dave Osland's training partner. The guy that ran the contest was Brian Carlton, and he was just one of these guys that was very just energetic about it, man. And I was like, yeah, this is something I want to be involved in, because these people are so just energetic, and it's like addictive. Like I feed off these people, right? And there was a forum, gripboard.com. It still exists, but it allowed us to interact with each other. So that was I went out there alone. Like I wanted to have people with me at strongman contests, but I had no problem going out alone to these grip contests.
So how did you go about changing your training then to be more specialized in those events?
That's a good question. It was, for the first few years, Dave, I think the main thing I did was strongman training along with like squats and deadlifts. I didn't do bench press for like 2 years because my chest, I'm not bragging, but my chest was just ridiculous. But I'm trying to bend these steel bars, right? And I couldn't get the technique right because this massive pec muscles, they're just in my way. So I just quit benching, and all I did was overhead press for a while. And then I was able to certify on the red nail. And then I just kind of build my bench back up after that. But I had to do what I had to do, So to answer your question, the majority of my training from 03 to 06 was based around strongman and powerlifting with some grip mixed in, like to the point where I would train grip for a few weeks, specializing on the events that were in a contest, because I might go to contest 2 or 3 times a year. So I would just kind of hone in on my training. And if it was a bigger, more important contest, then I would do maybe a longer training block, maybe 6-8 weeks for that contest. But that was only for like nationals. Well, we called it Global Grip Challenge at the time, but it kind of became what is now nationals. So yeah, it wasn't a year-round thing. It wasn't a year-round thing to train grip. There were months at a time that I didn't even do, maybe just grippers or something like that, but nothing as far as a specific training protocol for a competition.
So at that time, it's when you're at that time, because your training's progressed, but at that time when you go into these blocks to be able to peak for that event, are you pulling back on a lot of the strength work? Because a lot of the strength work can be fatiguing to the grip. Yeah,
it is. And I think it took me a little while to put that all together.
So at first you were just putting more shit on top of what you were already doing?
Everything. Yeah. Like more days a week. I got to find another day in here, But I started I started like collecting all the stuff and making my own gym at my house, so I could just like go down and grab it, bring it up, and train while watching wrestling. Or, sorry, I keep bumping or just go downstairs and do a workout down there. But see, in the United States, the approach to grip sport training was a little bit different. It wasn't so much about preparing for competitions. What we had was a bunch of feat lists. So lists of individual grip strength feats that you would try to attain. So Thomas Inch replica dumbbell, 50-pound blob, things along these lines, or closing the next gripper up, which there were only a couple gripper companies back then. So it was like close the 3, close the 4. So there were these lists, maybe 20 lists. So most of people's training was geared around at the time towards reaching all those lists. So
now, how do you get on that list?
It was you just upload a video or take a picture of yourself completing it. So there's probably people on the list that submitted a picture that didn't actually do it. Right? There's always been these dicks that try to cheat their way through or lie about stuff, you know. But like, it's the internet, you're gonna have this. So there's probably a few of those on the list, but basically it was just a picture or a video. And like we talked about earlier, it wasn't as easy as uploading to YouTube. You'd have to have some way to transfer the file, and then you'd have, I think I did a lot of the judging. If it looked legit, then I would put them on the list. I got into the grip board in like a kind of a leadership behind the scenes role pretty early on.
That had to be fun. Moderation of internet forums back when there was no social media.
No, I've been in way too many unnecessary fights and arguments about dumb shit. But I guess the way I remember it is I was able to knock off like most of those feats, and then it put me towards, well, I guess I'm going to train for these contests now. Yeah. So I kind of got really good experience training for the specific events because everybody else was still trying to reach those feats. You know, in Europe and all the other places where grip was taking place, it was mostly geared towards contest prep. Whereas in the United States, it was mostly feats. So I knocked all the feats out and I got into contest prep, and it kind of helped me. Yeah.
So after you get through those 3 years of just throwing more shit on top of more shit, and you begin to get a handle on how to periodize, you know, for each of these events, what was the maturation process of that to where it is now?
I called it a 3-prong approach. So I'd try to train 3 things really hard all at the same time. And then the other stuff if I could get to it, I would do it. But there was usually like 2-hand pinch, axle deadlift, and grippers were in the majority of contests. So you could spend a great amount of time on those 3 events and you'd be pretty well trained up for an upcoming contest, because chances are those events were going to be in that contest. And then it was a matter of being good at bending and medleys. So once I was able to bend the red nail, and eventually the contest, instead of like doing this style double overhand bending, it went to all reverse style bending. So once it came to that, I almost didn't have to do it anymore to maintain like red nail bending strength. So I didn't really even waste my time too much with it. I would just put that back in like 3 weeks before and get my wrists ready to go. And then the 5th event was usually the medley, and you know, I was just good at the feats, big hands. And I went everywhere in the country to get block weights, and I bought stuff. Like I just amassed a collection longer. I've just been doing it longer than anybody else. So I have more stuff basically.
I guess where I'm going is if you're looking at a powerlifting program, you know, have a squat, bench, and deadlift, and then that's primary, then everything else you do secondary to be able to increase that primary. Olympic lifting would be that way. Strength coaches with football, they're going to have, you know, 4 or 5 main things that they know have the highest correspondence. Then all the rest of the training is built around having those. So with grip sport, what are those 4 main things? And then how do you build all the rest of the training to be able to have that correspondence to that?
Yeah, so the 4 main things are definitely grippers, some kind of pinching, a thick bar lift, usually a rolling handle, and then probably a vertical handle. So it would be something like if you grabbed a ball like this. So you generally keep one event of all 4 of those aspects in your training at all times. And it could be a 2-hand pinch or a 1-hand pinch. And if you do that most of the time, then you're going to be in pretty good shape for a contest.
So that event takes care, so you don't need like accessories for that event to build that event?
Not really.
Okay.
I mean, don't get me wrong, you can do that stuff, but I don't think most people would do that. So I think the main accessory for a lift would be like a hold for time.
Okay.
Or just doing.
Where I'm getting at is this sounds a lot like the power lifters that only squat, bench, and deadlift because that's got the highest correspondence. So with these things, that's kind of that world.
Yeah.
Right. You're only going to do those things. Then how important is the base level of strength?
Well, and something important, like I feel that like if in my training, if I was really good at block weights, then most of my training was pretty honed at the time. So I've always included some kind of block weight training, which a block weight is just half of a dumbbell head.
Yeah.
So the blob is the most famous one, but any dumbbell can be like you cut the handle off or it's damaged and use that as block weight training.
Hex dumbbell.
Yes.
We should put that out there.
Yeah. And you're just trying to lift the biggest one that you possibly can. And I just always try to stay primed on my block weights. So I guess that would be an accessory that kind of supports everything.
Okay.
But as far as like, if you're thinking about the bench press and then you do a bunch of tricep extensions and different variations to like improve your lockout and things, there's nothing to really correlate to that as far as grip that I'm able to think of right now.
So on the flip side of that, are there exercises that you would be doing that could hurt your ability to do those things? For instance, a lot of heavy lat work without straps.
Yeah. You've got to place it properly because like with gripper training, grippers are the worst because it's dynamic. The fingers are actually moving. So you have to be freshest when you're doing that. So almost nobody is able to do some form of training before grippers unless it's like squats. So there was a long time where I would pair squats and grippers because it like revs up your nervous system and it's like everything is perfectly primed. And some of the heaviest grippers I've ever closed were when I was doing that protocol. If you try to do grippers after you do any kind of pulling exercise, usually your grippers are diminished by a significant percentage. And like you could probably still set the gripper and you could probably get it to parallel and maybe beyond, but you're not going to close it like the last eighth of an inch just because your fingers are spent enough. There are some absolute freaks that I don't know how they do it, but they train like thick bar first and then do grippers and they're still able to close like massive grippers, but they're by far the exception to the rule.
So that's with the grippers. Now, if you have the cupping, right? Like
the thick bar stuff?
Yeah, the thick bar stuff, but there's all kinds of cable attachments. There's all those other things.
Yeah.
I think I got like 50 different fucking things that you could be able to cup that are in here.
Yeah.
Is there correspondence between those things and the actual events that people would do?
Sure. I don't have any data that would that I could point to.
Well, what I'm wondering is, because somebody could just go hog wild and have 50 different fat attachments, and then that's all they ever do.
No, I think thick bar is an extremely beneficial way to train for someone who just wants to bring up their general grip strength.
Okay.
Yeah, that's going to be like, it's like sled dragging. Like it's like good for everybody.
Okay.
Squats and deadlifts, good for just about everybody. So if you're doing some kind of a thick bar row or pull downs, something like that, oh yeah, that's a great way to go
for the grip,
for grip training. Yes. Okay. And then you can build your base wide enough that you can apply that strength to like grip sport. So like people that are accustomed to training thick bar, especially like strongmen, arm wrestlers, stuff like that, where they're used to working with an open hand, they come into grip and they generally do very, very well. Climbers also do extraordinary, because I can't think of anything out on the rock ledge where you're actually wrapping your whole hand around. You're like usually like trying to suck your hand against it like a tree frog. So that crimping and that those angles, you never really wrap around anything, and the climbers are just ridiculous. Some of the people that are coming into grip sport now from climbing are killing numbers. So
for a grip sport athlete,
yes,
right? So I'm going to say that again so the people that are listening get it. For a grip sport athlete, would there be any benefit for them to, say, do the barbell rows with a regular bar with heavier weight, or the, say, pull downs and all their lat work with a regular bar with heavier weight? Or would it be better for them to predominantly just stick with the fatter implements?
No, I would strongly encourage grip sport athletes to use like the regular size barbell and pull down handles in order to bring up their actual strength, because you end up sacrificing some of the weight you can add to the loading pin or the barbell when the implements increased in size.
I guess that's what I'm trying to figure out, is how important is that overall strength to the grip athlete?
I feel that the overall strength is something that grip athletes are severely missing. Like generally the top grip sport competitors are actually very, very strong. And they do some kind of combination of just basic strength training with regular sized implements.
This episode is brought to you by Element, the only electrolyte drink mix I trust and use daily. Each stick gives you exactly what your body needs: 1,000 milligrams sodium, 200 milligrams potassium, 60 milligrams magnesium, no sugar, no fillers, no BS. Right now, Element just dropped lemonade salt, a limited time flavor that is crisp, clean, and perfect for summer training. It's available while supplies last, and when they're gone, they're gone. This is how I personally use Element. First thing in the morning when I wake up, before caffeine, put a little bit in water, slam it down. When I'm training, I'll mix it in whatever drink that I have. If it's just water, it's water, but if it's anything else, I throw it in there as well. Here's the best part. You can try this totally risk-free. Don't like it, give it to a salty friend, and Element will give you your money back, no questions asked. Head over to www.drinkelement.com/table talk.
Just the stuff that you would see in any commercial gym, and they just get brutally strong, and then they're able to apply that strength to grip, and they have to do some specific training in order to bring their hands up. But yeah, unfortunately I have a lot of friends in the sport who could do a lot better if they were stronger.
Yeah, well, that's kind of where I was going, because I think a lot of those athletes think that they're obviously there's a point of diminishing returns. Like a 900-pound squat probably isn't going to make, but
I mean, it helps me.
Well, if they squat 200 and they go 400, it's probably going to have an impact. I don't know if you would know better than I do. They're missing that connection.
Sure. Yeah. Well, you can just see people like their body is buckling when they're doing like the two-handed lifts in grip sport can get pretty darn heavy. Like on the Napalm's Nightmare, I mean, people do 450 to 500 pounds on the 2-inch version. So some people are never getting that off the ground, whether their hands are strong enough or not. And even like 250, sometimes you see people and it just looks like their spine's going to shoot out their back because they just don't have the basic strength, the foundational core strength. And, it's clear that they don't squat and do regular deadlifting. So you see some pretty ugly stuff sometimes.
So if we kind of pivot into grip strength for, say, a power lifter, something that was explained to me early on was finger strength was vital, because if it's a deadlift in your underhand, as soon as that finger goes, you're kind of fucked, because the other ones are just going to fall from there. And, things that I've used were like sand, steel shot, stuff like that, but also paper binders,
like clips,
paper clips, type things. How important, again, for the grip athlete, how important is the finger strength to be trained, or is that being covered with all the other stuff?
It's being covered, and I think it's kind of the point of diminishing returns to a degree if they train stuff too awful heavy, like deadlifts and stuff. But for the normal person, I think sometimes people have a tendency to, like, if they're trying to bring their deadlift up, they go into thick bar stuff too much, and like the joint angles, it's very grip is very angle specific to your hands, and your fingers have there's 3 joints in each finger. So every time your fingers move, there's a degree of specificity that's either being gained or lost by how that's oriented on your implement. So like to go and grab, I've heard of people getting like 3-inch axles and doing like grip work with them, thinking it's going to improve their deadlift grip. I don't see that as the way to go. I really don't. I think you should just get better at picking up really heavy weight on the barbell that you're training on, personally, because you want that angular specificity. So I totally forgot what question you asked me.
No, but that's kind of answering that, because it makes a lot of sense, because they'll understand specificity in regards to all other muscle groups, joints, and so forth, but they don't understand what you're talking about there, because essentially all they're really getting good at is cupping, with an open hand, which you never do that.
You wouldn't do that in a deadlift.
No,
right?
I mean, the closest thing to that might be a thumbless bench press. Maybe, maybe a squat, if it's a thumbless squat. Now, when we move into the athletes, this is where it gets interesting, right? Because grip, well, actually, let's stay on the powerlifting because it's a shorter conversation.
Okay.
Why should a powerlifter give a shit about building their grip?
Well, so I boil it down to lift, hold, and control. So you can lift more weight, you can hold it for a longer amount of time, and you can control it and make the barbell do whatever you want it to if your hands are stronger, your hands and wrists. So like the lifting is kind of obvious with like the deadlift. You'll be able to pick up more weight. The hold, as you get stronger, your endurance improves too. So eventually, like doing 50-pound dumbbell rows, you can double your reps because your grip strength isn't failing. So you can pick up more weight, you can hold it, you can do more endurance-based stuff with it. And when you can do more reps with a certain weight, then you're going to put on more muscle. That's going to widen your frame, improve your leverages and stuff like that. So that's huge. And the control aspect is, making the bar stay in its path on the bench press, being able to keep it right on your shoulders where you want it to, and being able to manage tension and just control the barbell, keep it on your shoulders, being able to control your upper back and things like that. And it's not something that you have to worry about. If you have zero doubt in your grip, it's one less thing to worry about in your mind when you're taking that big squat out of the rack and trying to squat it.
So if they have a grip issue with their deadlifts, assuming it's not because their hands are just fat and bloated. Well, there is that. I mean, they still got to fix that. Yeah. How should they go about training it?
Dude, honestly, like, I think it's just you put the barbell in a rack and you pick it up and hold it, or you can see what is the max amount of weight that you can pick up out of the rack. And I'm talking like 4-inch movement. Now, it's not a hip and thigh lift where you're like, shoving your hip crease into it and pick it up. You got to kind of keep it a grip based.
So not use your legs to support the lift.
Like it's probably going to brush.
Yeah.
Don't like brace the hell out of it against your thigh, because that's going to defeat the purpose. And then you can train multiple grips. You can train like double overhand. You can train monkey grip, which is where the thumbs are on the same side as the fingers. You can just take your thumbs off for a thumbless grip. You can do alternated, the way that you grip the bar in your deadlift, or you could do the opposite, alternated, the way that you don't pick the bar up. So like if you usually have your left hand open and your right hand overhand, then you would just switch that. But coming at it in a conjugate sense, you could bring up all those grips
Now, would you get the same grip stimulus? Because I'm wondering about load here, because you can have, you know, that heavy ass partial deadlift that we're talking about where you're not using your thighs to hold it, but you could also go on something like a chest supported row, you know, and hold that where the load would be way less. Yeah. Right. But would the stimulus to the grip be the same?
I think so. I didn't use straps for, I don't know how many years, Dave. Like all I did was just grab every row handle that I could think of and just try to manhandle it. And sometimes they would be partials. So like, I'm not doing like the prettiest row to my chest on like a chest supported row, but like for a long time, I just focused on just moving as much weight as I could. And like some of those machines have those like slick ass plastic handles, and they're definitely not knurled. Yeah. So, I think sometimes it's about the effort that's put in. And I'm not saying don't ever use straps, like, because at some point you have to strengthen your back and your upper, you know, your traps and stuff. So you want to use the straps. But
I do think I kind of came up in this old school mindset that you don't ever use straps, right? Unless you absolutely have to, which is kind of fucking rare. Where I do think that we see a lot of the inverse of that, where people are now using straps for their like warm-up sets of shit on everything. And they're losing a lot of grip strength just by not training. Yeah. You know, everything basically. I've seen people use straps for fucking dumbbell curls, you know, so. I
used to use straps for dumbbell curls. I mean, the first thing I did was put my old school straps on my wrists and wrists. Like I just wanted to be ready. Yeah. But you know, I got away from that when I realized that it was more important to make your hands work. So I think people make it like too complex. Like they try to think too hard about it. And it's actually kind of just stick with some more basic stuff and work the hands really hard, and they'll get stronger. And if what you're doing isn't working, then do something different. But I don't know. I think a lot of it can be just remedied by doing some more work that tests your hands a little bit more.
Well, it's interesting because in the powerlifting community, the go-to's always been like a rack pull. But as we kind of said, the problem with that is they're resting it on their thighs, which is taking most of the load.
We have the same problem in grip. So it's a bad subject.
And then if you get outside of that, you'll get a select few that will do dumbbell holds, you know, blob holds, rice, sand, stuff like that. But I mean, now you're going from like 99% will do what we're talking, the partial deadlift bullshit. And then the other 1% will do those other things, but those are typically the ones that actually fix the grip, you know, whereas, and then with the fat bloated hands, the best thing I've seen work with that is just people icing them before they deadlift.
Yeah. What causes that, Dave? Like what, cause I haven't necessarily had that problem, but I have met plenty of power lifters where it's like their hands are ready to blow up.
I think it's just if they're going through a full meet, you know, even if they're cutting weight, they're trying to put weight back on, right? So they're holding excess fluid to begin with. Oh, okay. And then after the squat, it's going to be a little bit higher because hands are going to swell, arms are going to swell a little bit just because of the load and the strain. And then the bench, it's all sitting on there, which is going to, all that weight on there is going to bring some more in there. Okay. And then come to the deadlift, you know, and it's not everybody, you know, where.
It's interesting. I've never actually done a powerlifting meet. I've been to them before.
Yeah, it's not many. Let's just put it that way. It's going to happen more to the heavier lifters and stuff like that.
But naturally, it's not going to help if your hands are already short and stubby, and then they're holding all this fluid, because it's kind of like wearing gloves when you do something. It makes the implement seem bigger because now you're like your fingers sitting further away from the implement. Yeah. So I can totally see how it would cause problems if people were retaining that.
Well, I would think, and I like your thoughts on this as well, that a lot of them may do better with all their deadlift training if they stick with the overhand grip for as long as they can before they go to a mixed grip or a hook grip. Right? Because if they're starting and I get the hook grip hurt, I get it. Like it hurts, and maybe when you first start doing it, you might have to do it with every set just to get used to how shitty it feels.
What's funny is I used to do hook grip all the time back in like 2002, you know, before we did the Strongman stuff, and it was like natural for me. And I tried that like a year ago, and it felt so completely foreign. But I mean, we're talking 23 years of time difference, but I think it would just be, if I ever did a if I ever did a deadlift competition, like an actual meet, I would have to learn the hook grip, because there's no possible way I can supinate my arms. I will rip a bicep off, because everything is just so locked in from being double overhand on everything for so many years, and I haven't done anything to address it, that I would just put the time in to learn the hook grip again.
Do you think though that through their warm-up sets they should work with the double overhand?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Oh, for sure. I wasn't trying to glance over that. I love conjugate training. I've been doing it for 2 years now, and I would almost say like it would be wise to kind of test yourself on a double overhand deadlift from time to time. But yeah, I think that's a great way to train. Like you could also do it with like shrugs and stuff. Go double overhand with the shrugs, and then that's even more dynamic. So that'll probably, it's going to work the hands a little bit differently, but it'll also be unstable. So you got to like squeeze harder. So, I would certainly tell people to warm up, do their warm-ups double overhand. I've seen people doing one arm deadlifts, and they're cool and all, but I don't think that's going to carry over, because the weight won't be the same, like the loading. So yeah. And then you could practice the monkey grip, where the thumbs go on the same side as the fingers. And then, I think all those varieties are going to help. Yeah.
So now when we migrate over into your sport athletes, wrestlers, football players, all this, grip is vital.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
So I'm going to go to a different direction with the athletes that you're working with. How do you design their base program first? Then we're going to get into the grip, because the base program is, and this is where I think some people, when they're interviewing you, they kind of lose.
This doesn't come up much.
They're losing like 90% of the whole program.
Yeah.
So what's the base on that?
So first off, I train primarily wrestlers and football players. But what I do is I leave spaces in the program so that there's always a space for a sports specific exercise. So, I wish I would have brought the notebook. I'd give you a really good example. But so yesterday was press day for one of my wrestler kids. So we did a press, we did a pull up, and we did a neck. So there's always going to be a neck in a wrestler or football player's training day. And that's block one. So we're going to do press, pull downs. Sometimes it's pull ups, but the dude's, he just got out of state competition. So
same movement pattern.
Yes. And then the neck. So then the next block, what I'll do is usually a hang, and I have implements from a certain company that, provide really good grips to hang from. And there's one that's shaped like a giant ball. There's one that's shaped like two balls on the end of a cylinder. So what I do, and this is really the grip training that I do with my wrestlers and football players, is I just have them do a pull up and just hang from this thing. So we have two variations, one that you're just hanging and there's space between your body, and there's another one that you're pulling it into your chest. So there's one on the other implement that there's space. It's kind of like a partial, and there's another one that you're pulling it into your chest. So that grip, it kind of resembles like the grip you would take when you're doing the tight waist on a wrestler or trying to tackle someone on the football team. So that's in the second block, and that's the pulling exercise in the second block. And then that's really all I do for grip training for my athletes.
All right. So what's the base training? So take the grip out.
Okay.
So the base training.
Yeah. The base training would be whatever we pressed. We would try to do 3 sets of 3 at like 85%.
So you have a press day?
Yeah. We do press. I don't know what the order is, but it's press, deadlift, bench, squat. And we train 3 days a week.
Okay. So that rotates.
Yeah.
Over every 8 days.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And then, so 1 week we don't bench, 1 week we don't deadlift,
Yeah.
but, we start out with that primary movement. It's usually for a max effort lift. So this kid's been with me since 2016. So he's very well experienced, and everything that I've ever tried, I've had him try. So he's advanced compared to probably a lot of athletes. I just want to be honest about that. But, I basically have him on a conjugate powerlifting program with press worked in there.
With the other athletes, if on the press days working up to the max, the only difference with those other athletes is it's going to be regressed.
Yeah, and I might not have, they're probably not going to do like a 1 rep max. They're probably going to do 3 sets of 3 or 3 sets of 5. Yeah. And then when we go through the program, then it's just accessories to bring up the press. Okay. So like tricep extensions of some sort, incline bench, things along those lines. And usually it's like for the beginning of the session, it's lower reps, and then we kind of increase in reps as we go into the routine, and it kind of morphs into like more of a conditioning / bodybuilding approach, muscle building. And where we do more rows, we do more tricep work, we do bicep work, and usually for every session there's at least one direct core exercise. So hollow holds, side planks, decline crunches. Those are the 3 main ones, really.
So then the deadlift is going to follow that same pattern?
That'll be the same pattern. Yeah. So deadlift was actually Monday of last week. So the ME exercise was actually just conventional deadlift. And then we do the triples at 85%. And then do a lot of lunges or rear foot elevated split squats or reverse lunges where you just like step back instead of forward.
Now, on each one of these days, you have, if I'm understanding correctly, you have basically a max effort exercise. Yeah. Right. And then there's down sets.
Yeah. We like downgraded to like 85%.
85%. Yeah. Now with the 85%, will that progress over a block? So 85, 90, 95.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially now that he's been through this for a year. Yeah. That like, I'm kind of pushing it. It's whatever the number is on the calculator, it's going to get like weight added to it, and I base it off the number that he just did.
Got it. That's what I was going to ask, because that 85% based upon that max lift he just did.
Yeah. So I have some of his numbers. Just to give you an example, like bench on a 3 board, 265 for a single. So then that day, whatever 85% is, and it might ratchet up a little bit just to make it an even 0 or 5. Yeah. Yeah.
And then on to the accessories from then.
Yep.
Then with each rotation through, does the exercise change, or how frequently does that main movement change?
Oh, the ME movement?
Yeah.
Oh, every week.
Every week.
Yeah.
So that's
I rotate it quite frequently.
Okay. Yeah. And do you have when you do that, is there some pattern you're trying to follow, say full range, partial
like
range?
A loose pattern where it would be like, so one of the variations is off 3-inch blocks. Yeah. And one of them we're standing on the 3-inch block, and the other one's just off the floor.
Okay. Yeah. So it's not always partial. So there's a balance between partial, full, and maybe even extended range if it's a
absolutely
deadlift off blocks and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And rotates through. So that's the base of the program. And then with that base of the program, that's when you're putting in the monkey hang type shit. Yeah. And is that first or is it last?
I don't want their grip to be affected for some of the heavier pulling, so I put it later. It's usually in the second block, actually, because the grip stuff doesn't affect the accessory and muscle building stuff as much as it does like the heavier stuff. So
now, when you say second block, are you speaking?
So there's a warm up block, which I don't even count. The first block is your strength block. Then the second block is like that intermediate block, and then third block is like it's like the fun stuff everybody wants to do because it's like muscle building.
Well, I wanted to clarify for the people that are listening, because for some it will be a hypertrophy block, strength block.
Oh no. So
you're blocking.
This is a daily workout. Yeah, I don't do I don't do any periodization blockwise in that regard.
Okay.
No. I kind of watch the kids and like just adjust stuff.
All right. Then with neck work, what are you using for that?
I have I have a neck machine that you can do extensions in both sides. I suppose you can do the flexion with it, but there's something weird about sticking your nose where everybody else is sticking it. So I don't have them do that. So we'll do neck extension machine and then the side neck machine. I have something cool. Do you care if I mention a product name? So it's called a Strong Neck, and it's literally like a plastic loading pin with like this foam pad on it. So instead of like just putting a plate against your head and then getting that ring and a big bruise on your head, it's got like padding there, and I can load it up heavier. You don't have to worry about any marks or
so it's like
rust.
Isometric loading.
Well, and it's flexions.
Okay.
So we'll do plate neck flexion, plate neck extension. I don't have them do bridges. I have I wish I could tell you what the name of it was. It's a certain kind of harness with a chain on it, and I hook it up to bands, and I have them do extensions on that, and I'll have them do good mornings on it. So they kind of like lock their neck in and then do a good morning or like an RDL exercise against the band tension.
Is it an iron neck? Because that's the one that will swivel.
Is the iron neck the thing with like the...
Yeah.
No, it's not that one.
Okay.
It's a neck flex, I think is what it's called. Neck flex. And it fits real nice. Like it seems to fit everybody. So I really like it. Whereas like other harnesses that I've had in the past, like rip, like the one dude, it came down his face and it hit his lip and it made this really weird noise. I wish I had it on film. It was the strangest noise ever, but we don't have it. Mm-hmm. But I just, because of that someone almost got hurt. So I like threw it away. And whereas this other one, it just fits everybody. It's fantastic. So we use that.
All right. So with this program, if you're kind of defining it as conjugate, is there any speed work in there?
Yes. Currently, no. But I took it out because he's been cutting weight. Mm-hmm. So I had to cut something.
Yeah.
So I kept the max effort in because historically he continues to PR even deep into the wrestling season. So I keep that going. But like in football season, we were doing speed work. Yes.
Well, you wonder sometimes too, because if he's in season, it's not like he's not getting any dynamic training.
Yeah, sure.
That's his whole sport.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You know, so where would that fit in if it was not in season?
That if it was not in season, I would do, so the way I do it, which might irritate some powerlifters off, but if it's squat day, if it's an ME squat day, I do my dynamic deadlift right after that. Mm-hmm. So it goes squat, then the 3x3, and then the speed work for deadlift, which is the 12x2, 8x3, try to get around that 24, 25 number. And that's how I do it. That's how I would have.
So then on the deadlift day is the
squat speed day. Yeah. Okay. And then the same thing. I don't want to overgeneralize, but like, see, I'm doing it different, Dave, because I'm still highly interested in the overhead press stuff. Mm-hmm. So I have in my training, like conjugate options for the press, just like someone would have for bench. Mm-hmm. And I'm trying to clean and press the inch dumbbell. For whatever reason, I don't know if it's mental or not, but I'm not being successful in the press part. So through a lot of the year, I'm trying to work on dynamic overhead being my inch press. So I don't have it as nearly conjugate cool on for my upper body stuff, but the lower body stuff is. So
for yourself, when you do that, I'm assuming from what you're saying, it's one-handed. That you're training the dynamic press is one-handed.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's just, I don't know. Like when I first started doing it, I was able to like press the inch inside of 6 weeks. And then every other time I've ever tried to do it, like within 6 weeks, I'm back to it. And then the last time I did it was 2021, and now I can't do it. And I'm cleaning the inch just about every workout that I try. So I don't know. I think part of it has to do with like, I'm so tight and hindered in my movement patterns, and I just can't get it to sit right. And every time I push press it like goes out here in front of me, and like I can't just pull it back. So
what would be some grip movements that somebody could do if they don't have the attachments and so forth, which by the way, we sell a shitload of attachments for that as well.
There's really not any excuse to not have the attachments anymore, because
they're
so
pretty much
readily
everywhere.
available.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's still going to be a whole group that don't have it,
Yep.
don't want to invest in it, or whatever reason. We can come up with a million reasons when people give you why they won't invest in stuff like that. But a lot of times they won't do anything because they don't think there's any options. Meanwhile, with speaking about your history, you are finding all kinds of shit.
Sure.
But I think there's a lot of really simple things.
Well, like simply like towel pull-ups and like wrapping a towel around your dumbbell and doing shrugs with that, or, you know, hanging off the towel. Like you can do a bunch of stuff with just a towel. Like it should be a decent sized towel, like a beach towel or something that's going to be tough. You don't want it to rip while you're up in the air, or one of your kids are up in the air. But and then there's ropes, of course. I mean, probably a lot of gyms have the rope push down thing. Like you could finagle that so you could hang off of it
and hold the end of a barbell and an offset power rack pin.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that you can do that it just involves, I mean, plate pinching. You could grab the rim of the plate, stick your finger inside the rim and like kind of hold it that way for like a claw grip type thing. If I saw you have a 25 over here on the ground with a really nice hub on it, people could reach down there and grab the hub on the center of the plate and pick it up.
Now with those type of things, what I wonder is there's a lot of options, right? So say one day they're going to come in, they're going to offset a barbell in the power rack, you know, so they're going to pull one end and it's, I guess if you have enough space and two athletes, they could both hold. And where I'll see people, they'll do that one time, then they'll do the plate hold that you're talking about the next time. They'll do a hex dumbbell hold the next time. In other words, there's so much fucking variation that I wonder if their grip's actually getting trained at all, because they're going from a pinch to a cup to a pinch to a cup, and there's not enough frequency. Yeah,
they'd have to record what they're doing and try to improve upon it over time for sure.
Okay.
Yes. And whether it's like the sheer amount of weight that you're lifting on the setup or how much time you're holding it, that would have to be tracked. Yeah. Because they could skip around and do something different like every day of the month, and you don't know where you've improved or not because you never went back and repeated that same exercise.
Yes.
So yeah, that's
and it may take a few times just to figure it out.
Oh yeah, there's technique with this, and like one day your hand can just slip right into the right position and angle, and all of a sudden you damn near double how much you lifted because you figured out one of these technique points that's actually really important, and people overlook them.
Look, I get it. A power bar is a staple of every gym, but what do you do after that? This is Dave Tate from Elite FTS, here to talk to you about specialty bars. Specialty bars are what's going to take your training to the next level. You're probably already familiar with our SS yoke bar, which every gym should have, which he's using there, you know, which provides comfort for the squat, especially if you're a washed up meathead like myself and you can no longer grab a bar, or you have shoulder injuries, or you're just looking for variation in your training. At Elite FTS, we have specialty bars that take care of all your training needs, from an American cambered press bars to fat bars, curl bars. We even have power bars. So head over to elitefts.com, toolbar, bars and weights, or blowout menu, bars and weights. That would be, as I kind of globally look over how people do their grip training, that's the first biggest mistake I see that they do, is that. The other one would be they stay with the same damn thing for way too long, and it doesn't progress. And that might be okay in certain sports because you only need it at a certain level. Yeah. But it just becomes habit. Like before I leave the gym, I'm just going to do stigs, or I'm going to hold this.
Yeah. There is a degree of variation that has to take place. The most important thing is you wouldn't just do the same stuff all the time in your like general lifting program. So why are you doing that in your grip training? Right? But I guess at least they're getting something done. But like the one thing that I would say to people is like, don't do plate flipping. Like, don't pick the plate up and throw it and try to catch it. Like, I don't see any benefit from that. And there's a tremendous amount of risk. like it makes me.
Yeah. Wasn't that
crazy.
just a trending?
It's over and over, Dave. It comes up over and over. Like the thing that it kept on being shown to me last week on Facebook and Facebook Messengers is, dude, I don't know if he's a contractor or whatever, but he's got the 2 concrete blocks and he's like picking them up in a pinch grip, and he's like, I don't know, maybe 1 in 100 people can do this. Like this, I have a phenomenal grip. And I just went in there and commented, I'm like, dude, you're invited to my next grip contest. Just let me know if you can make it. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that goes around that like, I don't know, I guess I'm getting old, but it's like, it annoys me. And like the plate flipping is one of the worst.
What's another one that's going, I don't pay that much attention to?
I don't know, taking a kettlebell and turning it like over by the handle. I mean, the torque that's on your forearm and those very, very fine muscles that are in there, the stress that you're putting on that. I mean, I've hurt myself doing that after 15 years of doing this stuff. And to go out there and like try to do like a 32 kilo kettlebell, I mean, people are going to need surgery to recover from those injuries. I don't know. Anything where you're going to drop something on your foot, I think is a bad idea. I don't know. I'm a dad now, so like I don't know. The risk taking is kind of something that.
Well, let's stay on the injury thing, because within the grip community, actually within the strength community, there's elbow issues.
Terrible.
But I see this when I hear people talk about this. They don't define exactly what they're talking about, right? So there's elbow, like bone spur on the actual elbow, like sitting your elbow down hurts like a bitch. But then there's also bicep tendonitis, which people will define both of those as elbow. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like, here's what you need to do to fix your elbow problem.
Right.
And they're 2 entirely different fucking things.
Well, I have the most experience with golfer's elbow and tennis elbow. So the golfer's elbow is on the inside of your forearm, and then the tennis elbow is on the outside. Yeah. So the things that I have done, so I've had that probably more than anybody, because when I started out, like I said, I'd done all this stuff. So I was doing strongman training, stone lifting, keg lifting, steel bending, pinching, all this stuff. So
how did it manifest in you to fuck up your training? Because when I would have that, like lowering a barbell to bench was, oh my God.
Horrible. The benching, curling, rowing, any machine exercise that I did, nothing worked. Nothing worked well, pain-free.
I mean, you could go fast, you could go slow. It didn't make any difference. It still hurt like a bitch.
So the first time I fixed it was with sledgehammer rotations, just gripping a sledgehammer and lowering it back and forth in pronation and supination. Now, again, it's not like the challenge that you're going to see from some influencer on Instagram. You're not taking a 20-pound sledgehammer and holding it by the bottom of the handle. I'm talking about like literally 2 or 3 inches from the head of a 6 or 8 pound hammer, and you just guide it down into, and it's going to hurt, but the area seems to need, in my experience, I'm not a doctor, but in my experience, I've needed to address the area by stimulating it and getting blood flow into the area. So, and I had double tennis elbow and double golfer's elbow. So both elbows were screwed up on both sides
at the same time.
Yes. And after 2 weeks of doing sledge rotations, they were fine. I fixed them and they were fine for months. Another time I don't think it was tennis elbow.
With that first time, did you change your training after it was fixed, or did you continue to do the same shit?
What do you think?
I know. I'm just, because there's a part here that people miss.
Yeah.
Like you got to figure out why it happened in the first place.
That's worth talking about. So
let's keep going on your different modalities first, and then we'll go back.
Okay. So there was another time where I got these. So there was a company selling these rubber bands it was for $20. You got like 5 pairs of rubber bands, and I didn't want to do that. So I went to just an office store and got their number 84 rubber bands.
Extensors?
Yes.
Okay.
And then you put them on your fingers and then you extend. So I have something when I work with grip grip athletes, one of the days to promote forearm recovery, I have them do what I call a rubber band battery. Do you have a rubber band sitting around?
No, but I know what you're talking about.
So I'll do 20 extensions. Your forearm is going to burn like a son of a bitch. 20 extensions. Then you hold the last one and you extend your wrist 10 times. And then you hold it and then you extend or rotate either way 10 times. So I just call it a rubber band battery. It's like 20, 40 repetitions. And that is what fixed my elbows the second time. So I consequently did that for a long time afterwards.
Well, that seems a lot easier than the sledgehammer because you can carry a rubber band where you go.
Yeah. The other thing that I found that worked really well for me, and it fixed my elbow one time. Like that's I'm kind of saying like this isn't the same injury every time. Reverse curls, like overhand curls on an easy curl bar. Like something snapped inside my arm and it was fixed right away. But you know, for like 3 years, I did those once a week. Nothing crazy heavy, like 2 or 3 sets of 10 or 12. And I'm just trying to flush the area full of blood. And then believe it or not, in it was 06 or 07, there was a competition in Pushups, Illinois. It was the Backyard Bastard Bash.
These are the greatest names.
Some of the names are fantastic. One of the events was steel bending, and I was like, I don't know how this contest is going to go. Like I've been training, but I'm in all this pain, dude. The second event was steel bending, and as I'm bending, something in one of my forearms like released and like went back to where it was supposed to be or something. My pain was gone. I fixed it at that contest. So and I had been to chiropractors and stuff, like they're trying to manipulate the heads and stuff, but I don't know, something when I hit that bar real hard. So it ended up fixing it. But the reverse curls were part of my training for years straight. The rubber band, I haven't done that in a long time, but I think at this point I'm better at listening to myself and understanding what like these higher risk lifts are. So I either avoid them completely or I just limit the volume, and I just haven't had a problem with them.
So that would be the advice in the prevention of all that?
Oh, for sure. Is like, obviously with experience, you'll know what's going to hurt you more than something else. And then like extreme joint angles are probably something to be aware of. Like one time I had the bright idea to take a block weight and put it up. Like we were doing these like reps, loading it almost like a strongman stone, an Atlas stone up on this platform. And I don't know what I did. I did something to my forearm up in here. That's really the last time that I had an elbow issue, and it was probably 2012. So just being aware that this is actually a really high risk motion, but I was kind of stunting. I was like feeting. It was like a feat loaded up there. So instead of doing it once, I'm going to try to do it twice and 3 times. But I guess the point is you try to be aware of these movement patterns that are higher risk than others. And really anytime you're bringing your elbow up like this, you could potentially mess your shoulder up anyway. So, but it got my elbow that one particular time.
I think another preventative movement that can kind of help with this is a lot of the people that I'll see that will complain about these issues have lost the ability to just do a barbell curl with a straight bar.
Oh, dude, I can't do that.
Because they can't supinate, right? So being able to maintain that mobility, and if it's lost, start with like a dowel rod with as wide as you possibly can, and then try to get it to where you can bring it back in. Yeah. Because, I mean, you have to think that if you can't do this, right, at all, and then you're put in a position that forces you to do that, something's going to aggravate.
For sure. Yeah. Good point. Makes me actually want to get my dowel rod out and do something with it. So
well, what I find with most people is they'll hear that, then they're going to go try to grab a bar and their curl grip, and they're like, fuck, I can't do this. Like, well, you start with a dumbbell if you have to, and just crank it as much as you can possibly tolerate without it being stupid insane.
Yeah. I've gone the opposite way. So instead of actually trying to fix my my supinated grip, I have these like spheres that go onto the bar, and it almost turns the barbell into like an easy grow bar.
Well, sometimes though, and this is interesting because personally, I like the cupping attachments, even if it's doing, cable, face curls and stuff like that, because I can take the forearm out of it and get more isolated on the bicep.
Yeah.
Because that's not closed.
Yep.
And it's the same thing with a lot of the lat work. I can have more intention on the lats if that's not locked in, which isn't going to do shit for my grip, right?
Yeah.
But that's not what I'm trying to train, right?
Yeah.
Because it's lower end hypertrophy training, which I always kind of see that as a strength athlete, where if it's lower end of day, training day, hypertrophy work, then you don't have to show off with how much you can lift. You're just trying to stimulate this muscle and, have the mechanical tension that can be controlled with tempo, all kinds of shit.
Yeah.
That doesn't have to be the whole fucking weight stack on a lat machine, and that can be done earlier.
I love going to a gym though and just stacking every machine, but yeah.
Well, it's interesting with that because that can have some grip applications too, where if you're doing the lat pull downs and your first couple sets are done with decent technique, mechanical tension and all that, then you do a couple more sets where you're just muscle fucking it down.
Yeah.
That, I'm not going to say that's not going to work, right? Because if anything, it's got grip applications, and hell, you can make it a total body exercise if you want. I did for years.
Yep. It seemed to work pretty well for you.
Yeah, it looked fucking cool. But where I'll debate that is when we get to the hypertrophy part.
Yeah, because it's like the tension's on and off, and being thrown all over the place, and
so I think that becomes as coaches and people that are lifting, and they have to go into whatever movement they're doing, understanding what the intention that they're trying to derive from doing that movement. If it's grip or hypertrophy or strength, what is it? Because you certainly don't want to train, a heavy compound movement, with slow tempo and isolation and all that other kind of shit. You're trying to make it stronger.
Yeah.
You're going to have to move that shit.
Yeah. That's a good point. It reminded me of something I was going to say earlier. So I was talking about doing those hangs on those specialized implements. We also do pull downs with those implements, and you can't throw them because like you can't use momentum and make it look like this, because it's gonna rip out of your hand. And
that's kind of cool for the kids, because that, without them really understanding, you're building that intention into it.
Yes. Yeah.
Because the hardest thing to try to teach a younger kid is how to train with better technique.
Yeah. And that we use that as a regression too on the pull downs, because not everybody can do pull-ups or a substantial hold.
Now, have you found correspondence between pull downs and the pull up?
Like if they get better at the pull downs, they get better at pull ups. I don't know. I don't really have an answer for that, Dave.
I don't either.
As soon as I have a kid that can do pull ups, I'm getting them on a different implement. So I bought all those implements off of the website where it's kind of underhand, neutral. So we do pull-ups on all those. We do pull-ups on the bone looking thing. So as soon as I have a kid who has blossomed enough that they can do pull-ups, I'm going to start changing the implement so it's not just a pull-up bar. So really that's where
now, how many pull-ups do you want to see them do before you'll start doing that?
One.
Okay.
Then let's try to do it on this implement now. Yeah. And then if so standard at my gym is 3 sets, but I'll have other kids do 5 or 6 sets because they can only do 1.
So if they can't do 1, how do you progress them to be able to do 1?
So I have to give credit where it's due. So a longtime friend, Brad Martin, showed me this, but he trained with us at Diesel Crew. So you have the cage. The cage that I have has just holes all through it. So I can change the hook height, and I'll have the barbell. Usually we'll start at height 15, which that doesn't really mean anything. It's just the numbers are the holes are numbered.
Yeah.
So we'll start at 15 or 16, and I'll have them line up so that they're gripping the barbell, their torso straight up and down like a pull-up, but their hip joint is right underneath the bar, and then their knees are bent. So what they're doing is they're maybe working with 50-60% of their body, but I try to keep their torso straight up and down.
All right. So this is not a fat man pull up.
No,
to where it's like a row.
This is not an inverted row.
Okay.
The torso straight up and down. You're trying not to use your legs. I even crisscross applesauce their legs so that they're not driving into the floor, and then they're doing pull-ups that way. So I've had plenty of kids, including girls, work up to doing pull-ups using that method first to try to get like an endurance foundation for the pulling movements. So I go from there. Then I have them do like eccentrics on the pull-up handles. And a lot of times I'll start with them with the neutral grip rather than an overhand barbell. I don't know why, it just seems to be a little bit more successful. And even the underhand grip of that one variation it just seems like if you start with like chin up grip, they're more confident and they feel more secure and they can do more reps. But what I'm having them do is cheat their way up somehow, whether they jump and then they lower themselves down, or if they climb up, like use a box to climb up and then step off. And then I'll add weight also. So I have vests. We don't really use them. Usually it's a dip belt or like sash them with a chain.
Yeah, well, it's faster.
Yeah,
I get it. Like the vest is kind of a pain in the ass.
Yeah, I don't even know where my vests are. I know where the sand packets are that go in the vest, but I don't even remember where I put my vests. We just don't use them.
Yeah, I mean, if it's somebody that trains at home by themselves, then it's a little bit easier.
Yeah, it's
but
different.
You have multiple people trying to use something.
And all my kids are like just these bulbous, massive freaks, and it's like it's hard to get the. I'm stretching it a little bit. Yeah, it's tough. It's tough to get them off one kid and onto the other.
It's easy to throw a chain around their neck.
It's much easier.
So that's what it comes down to is the functionality. What are some of the other things that you see that people are screwing up when it comes to grip training for sport?
Doing like dowel, freestanding, straight arm wrist roller crap. Like, it just drives me crazy. Like, it seems like anything that you can do for like endless reps is just not a good, I used to say a waste of time, and that irritates people. So I'm just going to say it's not an efficient use of time.
So load in time.
Yeah. It has to be considered.
Yes.
So I would much rather see even like just basic reverse curls or wrist extensions, which is basically a bodybuilding exercise, but it's also one of the foundational exercises that I used when I first started grip training. So like, I didn't just jump into this stuff. I knew about strength conditioning enough that I knew I had to do something to lay a base. I didn't listen to that for long enough because I ended up getting hurt. But like, I did a 6-week ramp up for all of my, like all the different forearm angles. So all right, I got off track for a little bit, but like rather than doing just like endless reps on a wrist roller, I would rather see people do something that's a little bit more structured that they can load, measure, and track. Or
just, roll it up 3 or 4.
Well,
then hold it.
And if it's supported, if it's a barbell in a rack, I'd like it better than just like, I just don't, I did that in college and I just knew it was not doing anything for me. Like, I get it. It bloats your forearms up, but like, I never got any increased velocity or bat speed out of that. Like, I think I got more out of just doing heavy rows. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah. It was just, I don't know. It never made sense to me from the beginning to do that.
What are some of the other things?
Now that you're asking me, I can't remember.
Well, it's kind of hard though, because most aren't doing anything. Yeah. So it's kind of hard to find the things that they're screwing up when they're not doing anything at all.
I don't know. I almost want to say that if an influencer is doing it, don't do it. Because it's usually it's the stunt stuff. It's like, ooh, you might get hurt doing this. Yeah, and you might get hurt if you do it too. So don't mess around with it.
Hey guys, if you're enjoying what you're watching, make sure to take a moment to like, comment, and subscribe.
I don't know. I've seen like like throwing kettlebells back and forth. I mean, that's kind of risky, but I used to do that too. I mean, we used to juggle them all the time.
Now, there used to be, you might remember this, who knows how long ago, but there used to be a lot of talk in the years past that you don't want to train the grip a lot because it's really hard to recover from. You remember that?
Yeah. I mean, I heard Louis say that.
Yeah.
Like I actually asked Rob Pilger to ask him what he does for grip training, and he was talking about how they don't use any thick bars, and like they didn't want to, I think I may have asked you or Louis at Juniata one time about that, and the answer was we don't do it because it's too hard to recover from.
Yeah.
I mean, you can overwhelm yourself doing grip training by doing too much.
Well, I could see that if it's a 1,000-pound rack pull, and you're pulling it 6 inches and just holding it to the top. I don't know if that would actually be grip training. Yeah. More so than just the rack pull.
So for the Grip Authority, one time I came across somebody that was like some kind of a doctor, and he knew stuff about the like central nervous system. So I interviewed him, and I kept saying like CNS related to grip, and he was like, I have to stop you for a minute. You're not dealing with the CNS when you're dealing with grip training. It's the peripheral nervous system. So I just remember that. So I've kind of tried not to say that. I just say nervous system, but I try to stay in my lane when I can. But I think it's hard to define. Like I don't know that I've ever been. The last time I think I was overtrained in any capacity was the time Smitty walked downstairs and I was passed out on a bench.
Yeah.
Like there may have been a couple other times. There's just.
No, but I don't believe that was because of the grip training that you were doing when you were overtrained.
Well, I wasn't even doing grip at that time.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Never took any time off, and probably wasn't eating properly, let alone sleeping. At that time, I was 21, so I was drinking. I was going out to the bars, staying out, and then we would work out, never missed a workout. But eventually I needed a break, I think, and that's when I took it, was when I was just zapped.
Yeah.
But, man, I just cannot think of a time where I felt like I overwhelmed my body by the grip training I was doing. And I do almost no grip training now compared to what I used to do when I was in my 20s and 30s.
I've never spoken to anybody that says that they have. That's why I put that question out there. And if anybody would know that world, it's somebody that's competed in it for 20 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. I didn't notice where you were going with that. Yeah. It's like, as long as you don't go 0 to 60 in 2 weeks, I think you'll be all right.
Yeah.
I mean, some of the volume we used to do back in the day, Dave, was just ridiculous. I mean, my hands would get sore, and I'd have to take a couple days off, and I might overdo it and strain something, but it was never a point where I don't remember not being able to do the rest of my workouts.
Yeah.
So
what's it been like being in this space business-wise before the internet to social media to whatever's coming next with AI?
Yeah.
Because a lot of people in this space are kind of freaking out because, AI is coming and is going to transform and change all these things.
And be the end of the world.
Well, yeah, some will say that, but we kind of saw, I don't want to say the same thing, but we kind of saw the same thing because personal computers changed everything. Yeah. And, over a period of say 10 years, the change from dial-up, to what, the cell phones and shit like that is huge. And we'll probably see that same change happen in like 3 years. Yeah. But the core values of why you're in business and all that are still core values of why you're in business. Yeah. Right. So we've gone from trying to find information in magazines and just phone numbers of people to call to being able to find anything now. Yes. And there's not a whole lot of people that have been in this space for over 20 years. Yeah. To be able to kind of tell their story and how they, navigated, all the change. Because when you look back, because you don't notice because you're too busy working and doing shit like that. But when you look back at the change from what we have now to then, it's like, oh my God.
Stark difference.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'll Smitty and I take full credit for inventing blogs. Like we basically had a blog before there was blog software.
HTML shit.
Yeah, we would just change the top of the first section so the new stuff was at the top.
Yeah,
and we would just code all that. Like
we were doing that with articles.
Yeah,
when we started.
Yeah.
People had no idea.
No, they don't. And they would just download those videos over and over. Like finally, we were like, in the code, it was like, we beg, we plead you, right click and save target as, so they wouldn't just keep viewing the video over. Like, put it on your machine. We don't care. Yeah, it's been weird. Like, you know, even just the changes on YouTube. I'm trying to follow like a new structure with the way that YouTube works with the algorithm right now. And the problem is, no matter what you're trying to do, you're always limited by how much time you have in the day. And I'm trying to do taxes. I'm trying to do product creation. I'm trying to shoot a video. I got to outline that video. I at least got to put a couple minutes into it to make it sound right. And then there's like this other stuff that goes along with it, because it's kind of an organized approach, right? Like, I've heard people talk about how to leverage YouTube and like get the viewers, get the subscribers and stuff like that. Like, the subscribers, like, I'm really good, I think, at like getting people to subscribe to my channel, but they don't watch the videos. So I'm trying to kind of adapt a new approach to at least some of the videos that's like a proven method to get the videos out there and try to leverage it into like my online business more. Because like people, I don't know, it's like they forgot where the description box was, because all the important links you need are down there, but like it seems like people don't ever go there and find their way to the better information.
Well, I think that's what a lot of people are kind of missing is, you know, the clout chase, change, you know, however we just search for views, likes, whatever it's going to be.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, if it's a business and you're trying to sell a product or clients or something like that, ultimately they need to go to your page. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, or a mailing list.
Yep.
You know, there has to be something that you acquire that you permanently have.
Yes.
And it doesn't make any difference if you have 1 million views on something, but nobody joins your mailing list or nobody clicks through to your site.
And that is what I'm honing in now. Is I feel like it's cool and all to get like a bunch of views, but it's better for me to have the viewer turn into a prospect for my website. So that's exactly what I'm trying to do now with the approach.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, anybody that's been in the space for over 2 decades is going to have that same answer.
Yep.
Right. The only other flip side of that is the views are so high that you're able to get the monetization through ad revenue.
Right. Yeah.
Which is going to be subjective to how many people are actually buying ads, you know, and all these other things that kind of play into all that.
It's huge. Like, you know, the ad budgets are down like generally in January and February. So there's less ad revenue being invested into YouTube. So then the presentations aren't, you know, shown as often and stuff like it's crazy how it all works. It's kind of overwhelming. And I try to stay a safe distance away from it because I'm so obsessive compulsive about stuff that I'll just like take 2 weeks researching this and then not do anything about it. So I hear stuff, I'll play it in the background, but I try not to obsess too much because it's not like I'm going to teach somebody how to do it. So like, I just try to keep a safe distance.
So the takeaway from that would be to figure out the metrics that actually matter.
Sure.
Right. And then build those.
Yes.
Right. And
do your videos towards those metrics that matter in order to leverage the system that there's no sense fighting the system. You might as well build your videos. It's like you don't drop F-bombs in the first 5 seconds of the video because A, you're going to get demonetized, and then B, you won't get presented because like advertisers, it's not advertiser friendly. So like that's just a basic thing. So like you want to keep that in mind. And then there's other more advanced basic stuff that you want to keep in mind for your videos as well. So
well, I guess the main point I'm trying to put out there is, I mean, you've been around the space a long time, and there's a lot of bullshit, right, in regards to how much money people think people make, right? And this goes all the way back to blogs and the first ebooks that were being sold, all this other shit.
Yeah.
You know, there could be this impression, oh my God, they're making fucking hundreds of thousands of dollars, or, you know, meanwhile they're making like $100, if that. They're selling like 4 fucking books or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But the impression of everybody coming in is they're making this, they're making this, making this, and you've been behind the scenes on a lot of this space for the past 20 years. And most of the people that we all thought were making tons of money aren't making shit.
No, they're lying.
They're lying.
Like most of the time, most of the people are just like blowing smoke about what they're doing.
Yeah. So it creates a false impression of what the industry actually is.
Yeah. And it sucks because you have these charlatans that put this information out, right? And, oh, they're like rolling in whatever vehicle and they own a house in Miami or whatever. So they paint this picture that's blatantly false, but then everybody that sees that, and you see, they may have seen Jedd Johnson hanging out with that dude one time. So they think that I'm making the same money or making the same claims or anything. When in reality, I saw that dude one time. Like I've never spoken to him again. So yeah, I've had that rub off effect go in a negative sense also.
Right. The advice I'd have for people coming in is to think more long-term, right? Like, because business is more about survival than it is about thriving, right? There's ups and downs, and there's way more downs than there are ups. Where I think if they looked at it and said, well, how can I do this is a side hustle, you know, working the job that fucked your old back up.
Yep.
How can I do this till it gets to a point to where I can just have a living wage? Right. And then after the living wage, you know, how can you chip it up? But then how can you stay in business so you don't have to go back to the job that was breaking your fucking back sitting down all the day?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And for most people, that's still going to be a living wage, but it'll be a living wage over 10, 15, 20 years. But you're doing something that you like to do more times than you don't.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Because there's a lot of work that goes into all these things. That
it can be a drag sometimes.
Yeah. A lot.
Owning a business is not, some businesses are probably easy to run, but like mine isn't. Like I have to keep in mind that the reason I'm doing it is to help people get better, and I'm trying to provide information for my sport, for people trying to put on muscle, trying to improve their strength, and I'm trying to like play a role in that. But like over the years, I've had to expand my business to include other options like coaching. And I have a gym now. So like, I don't know. I suppose I could have stayed just writing ebooks all the time, but I also wanted to do more things that could help people even more. Like I can make a bigger impact if I'm able to speak with someone every couple of weeks and do their program. So that was one of the best things I ever did. So, yeah, I encourage people to, if they want to start writing and authoring or videoing stuff, I encourage people to do that. But I just do hope they have realistic expectations of what's gonna happen, because it ain't easy. And there's a lot of companies that you're going up against that have a much better foothold and much bigger budgets to compete against you and things along those lines. I've been, you know, I was in a mastermind group with Paul Reddick for years and years. He and I became really good friends, and I learned a lot from him and was able to apply a lot of the stuff in my business. So like, I think if someone wants to get into the online marketing and share their information, I think they should do it. But I think it's make sure you have an idea of the best way to go about things, so you're not like just beating your head against the wall. And understand that there is a percentage of the people that are out there providing the information that don't know their ass from a hole in the ground. And they're just like making it up, or they attended a seminar last weekend and they went and wrote a product out about it. You know, even in my grip, there's people that are offering coaching and programming, which I'm like, you've been doing this for a year, dude. Like, so I don't know. Maybe they're good. Maybe they're good at programming. I'm not sure, but hopefully they don't get people hurt.
Yeah.
You know?
So on that note, what would be the best way people can get a hold of you?
Best way to get a hold of me is probably through my email address, and jedd.diesel@gmail.com, and it's Jedd with 2 D's. I had Diesel Crew, but I got sick of it being hacked all the time, and no matter what the security service that I put on there, it just kept on getting hacked, so I just took it off. So now I don't really use social media. I have an Instagram, but mainly YouTube is like the way that I interact with people. But the email address is probably the easiest way to do it. That, or through Facebook or Instagram, you can message me. But I almost never delete. I have emails going back to like 2005 when I got the Gmail, because like every once in a while I'll see a name and I'll be like, I swear I know that name, and I'll search it and I'll find an old email address from like 2005, 2006. So I'm not saying it's the best practice to keep all your email addresses. But that's my whole business is in that account. So
all right. Well, I have a gift here for you.
Oh.
And there's I can't reach your cursor. There's a shirt, there's element packs, but there's a journal.
Oh wow.
That I have in there. And the same company that makes our powerlifting belts made those leather journals for me.
Very nice, Dave.
And there's a coin in there, and the coin it's a live, learn, pass on coin. People can't buy that. That's something that I've given out to people over the past 5 years that I think embody the vision of what the company was started on, which I know that you're familiar with what that is.
Yeah.
And you are definitely one of those people.
Well, thanks, man.
So
that's
thank
very,
you
very nice.
for everything that you've done for the community, and keep doing it.
Trying to make me cry.
Yeah. All right, so we'll wrap this up. Any final thoughts?
Man, I love competing. I love grip. The nice thing about grip is the shirt looks awesome, Dave. Thank you once again. I'll tell you, the nice thing about grip is if you've already got a strength background, you could transition into grip and still have that same experience where you are pushing for something that's really hard to reach. Then you get up on the platform and you compete. It's not the same as powerlifting. It's not the same as strongman. Like it's just not the same, but it's something that I absolutely love doing. And I welcome people to come in. And if there's anything that I can do to help people along the way, I probably have a resource. I could write some programming for the person, or at least just give them the introductory level, and what they could buy to just get them started so that they can create a foundation. And you don't have to buy every implement that's out there. There's hundreds of implements, but you need like a few grippers, a pinch implement, a rolling handle, just the basics. Help people get started. And we're doing a lot. Like if I could just recognize Eric Rusain for the work that he does behind the scenes, Zach Mullins, Clint Ziegler, Josh, Culpepper. I'm known as the guy that runs Grip Sport International, but like I have a lot of awesome people that help me behind the scenes, and I just like to give them the credit that they deserve. And we have more and more people running competitions all the time. We just instituted a regional format in the United States for regional competitions. We have a very mature system for qualifying for national competition. So you can't just sign up. You have to be qualified. So this organization has been going since 2011. And I think we're always making improvements every single year. And I have an awesome group of people that help with this. I don't do all this. It's whole bunch of dudes behind the scenes, and I also would like to thank Amy Waddles, because I think she had a hand in getting me on the show. This is like a major lifelong dream of mine to be on the show with you, so I really appreciate it. Amy says hi, and I have a lot of people behind me that support me, and I appreciate all them, and I hope they enjoyed watching this show today.
This is great. All right. Thank you. And guys, we're done.
Thanks.
All content you see on this channel and at elitefts.com is created by, take a guess, Elite FTS. If you want to help support the content, head over to elitefts.com and pick up literally anything that you need to be able to get more jacked and strong.